Thanks for unmuting me, Steve. It's been pretty wonderful hearing the people tonight coming on and giving their views, and it seems we've come to a conclusion that we have been tricked to a degree that's just not real. We are Crown, and I'd love you to try and find Dylan and just unmute him and just see what his thoughts are here, because he's been around for a while. So I'll just talk for a second.
He's in here. He's in here. I found him there, and I'll just ask him to unmute.
Awesome. Thanks, bro.
There you go.
I'll go quiet, but I mean, what I've seen tonight is everybody has been down so many different rabbit holes, and the rabbit holes seem to have all come together. And we all seem to have woken up to the fact that you know, we have been tricked, we have been deceived, and we are being treated as slaves. But we have the opportunity to change this by using Crown and by comprehending what that means. And
well,
that's such a wonderful thing.
Randy, we're not responsible for suppressing each other. That's coming from somewhere else.
Absolutely, bro.
We need to get rid of that one.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks,
mate.
Dylan.
G'day, everybody. Thanks for unmuting me. Don't know what's going on, but I've got no buttons working down the side here on the screen. It's got no options for raising my hand.
No way. I couldn't find you before.
That's all right, mate. That's all right. I'm still here.
Yeah, good.
Look, personally, everybody, thanks for being involved and uniting each other and standing up and everything. Because it's important that we do, and we work out how we're going to go forward. Look, where I'm coming from is a place which denies all foreign law that came here with the British from day one. The original people not ceding their sovereignty ever to this day gives them a lawful right to hold sovereignty and authority over their self-determination of their nations. And if you look what's going on now with Rod Cullerton and the Gap and what they've just whatever they call it, memorandum to an agreement to acknowledge that into a corporate contract with a corporate political parties, it's essentially it's not good news for everybody if they go ahead and do that. And the OSTF are original sovereign people, there's no doubt about that. But from the information I've been given from elders that hold law, is that they don't have the approval of those law holders, and it's not the genuine sovereign law holders, those who have the right to sovereignty and create law on their land through their actual law, and that jurisdiction that exists. They haven't agreed to it, as far as I can tell you, and that's a pretty bold statement to make publicly. So that's the information I have, is that they don't agree to that, and that can't go ahead. But in terms of everything else...
Excuse me, Dylan, just because when you're involved with something as heavily as you are, everything is really, really clear. Now, without going on forever, but can you expand on that a little bit when you're talking about that group of people and who they're not, and how did they come into
They're original sovereign tribal federation, they've called themselves, and they're a totally legitimate group. They have every right to be a sovereign group. It's just they don't have the approval of the law holders that from certain countries that I know, and they're some of the oldest and highest jurisdiction law holders that there are, the senior elders who've been holding law most of their life. So they're sovereign to their land is sovereign, and the jurisdiction is real that they're representing, and there's nothing unlawful about that. It's just that it's not a lawful way to go forward to make deals with the Commonwealth, to have all those jurisdictions operating under their own.
So they're making a deal, if you like, on behalf of people who haven't authorised them to do it.
Yeah, kinda. It seems that way. Yeah. So.
Okay.
But all that aside, it's great news that we're talking about sovereignty at a real level here, and we need to be talking about how it exists in the true jurisdiction, and that's why you'll find that Rod Cullerton's made this effort, is because he went to Britain and he went to the Supreme Court and he found out that Australia just has no jurisdiction in its court system. So he went to the original people, because he probably got a hint from somewhere, and has tried to make a deal with his political party, which just isn't going to happen. So. Hopefully it's just a stunt to get everyone talking, and people start to realise that a national sovereignty doesn't exist. And if we want to deal with these international threats like globalism, we need to be acting as a nation, not as a 25 million individual sovereigns. because that's not a unified national sovereignty in it by any standard.
Yeah.
What I would say is I don't want to get in the way of what you guys are trying to do and trying to achieve, and I hope that if you go forward in this direction, that if it is lawful, then I have to come under those instructions too, all right? So I'm part of it, same as everybody else.
Your country, without any consent.
Is that an echo? Or?
No, I think that might be coming from the Crown.
Oh, fair enough.
Sorry about that.
Well, basically what I'm saying is I've built a web page which is just collecting the will of the people. It's there as a plan B, essentially, if you want to use it as one. And I encourage everyone to come along. They can use it anonymously, have their say, and they're not obligated to do anything, but they can declare their support of a treaty if that's the will of the people as it gets collected. We're trying to find ways of unifying an order to annex the system's line of authority and literally put in place the will of the people as the directions for the system to follow as we pull it apart and create treaty for the future, for a new foundation in our own common law. And in terms of New Zealand, from what I know, and I was born in New Zealand in Ngāpuhi, Whangarei. My parents are both Aussies though, and I've been here since I was 9 months old, but just so you know, I've got a little bit of foreign country in my nationhood, I suppose, but I'm fully Australian anyway. But they have the same situation. I met a man, Billy. I couldn't tell you his last name right now, but he told me he's the chief or king of Ngāpuhi, and that they weren't a part of the Treaty of Waitangi, which left the sovereignty of the nation New Zealand in question as well, similarly to how it is here in Australia, as a foreign invasion, basically on the original people of New Zealand, which I just recently learned because I watched Crown's video was sent to me the other night by Russ about how the word Maori is similar to the word Aboriginal and is just a slave name by the British to control and own and for ownership purposes.
Yep.
So I've put forward the idea to the original people quite publicly, and had some senior elders contact me, and they're in support of what I've put forward, which is, it's been called the New Dreaming, and it's a way to have all the people just have their say in creating a common law foundation that's legitimately ours from the foundations that are created, similar to the Syracuse and Sioux Confederacy agreements with the United States Constitution, which was founded and modeled off the Sioux Nation's constitution in their land and given the thumbs up. But that gives it a level of sovereignty that we just don't have. And New Zealand thought they did, but the Waitangi Treaty turns out to be a load of garbage too. So in essence, I'm talking about completely removing the Commonwealth from the entire jurisdiction of any form of jurisdiction attached to the system as it stands, and annexing it as free people, because free people can treaty, and they most certainly are sovereign. We're already sovereign. We're walking around on sovereign lands. That's the only problem. We are not a national sovereignty. That is our only issue in terms of our freedom. And those assuming national sovereignty are pointing guns at us and telling us what to do at the moment in ways that are quite, tyranny. And
well, that's what we need to get together to sort out, isn't it?
well, that's it. Look, and all I encourage you to do is do what you do. Just not ignore solutions when they're offered, and put it past.
Well, I can tell you, Dylan,
First Nations people is referred to. Look, I'm not calling them First Nations people. I call them original nations, because they were before the British, and so they were originally here before the British law. So it's about jurisdiction. It's not about colour. It's not about your heritage. It doesn't matter who you are. This is about jurisdiction of law, and as long as there's a 10 embassy on the front lawn of Parliament House, then I can't deny the fact that there's a jurisdiction here that's much higher than the Australian one.
Yeah, so, Dylan, with this, if there was a court held by the original people, with the common law court system, because you can bring any law into the common law court system. All it has to be is.
But you're bringing it into a foreign jurisdiction.
No, absolutely not. We're not going anywhere near their bloody courthouses or anything. It can be in my backyard.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, but you're using common law without its.
No, you've got a definition that's wrong.
Have,
A
has this
common law is just a people getting together and not being subject to what's in place. So if I could find another word, I would use it. But it's not
Okay.
common law as people are taught is common law. It's not.
Not as in British common law. Okay.
No, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Absolutely
Well,
not.
there's nothing can stop you doing that as long as there's no, force coming to tell you that you can't be directing what happens to somebody as a mob rule.
Yeah, well, the way it is, it's the same. It's the same with original law. Nobody can come in and tell you how to do it and be over it. And that's the same with common law. All we're talking about is common sense and a collective of people.
I realise all that.
So
And
all I'm
all
saying
for
is that we're
creating
able
a common law
to
jurisdiction that's lawful and has no opposition. I'm all for that. That's what is the basis of People's Treaty, is to create that foundation that has no lawful opposition.
So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get through to you, mate, is that the original people can hold their own court, or whatever you want to call it. So words fail us at times, but they can hold their own court, and we can exist there under the advice of elders and lawmen, that the procedure that you're going through is correct, and that we can certify that as well as observers, right?
Well,
Because I can't tell you that.
We have to create what you're asking for is the creation of that. To make that lawful, what you're talking about, you're going to need a treaty. That's essentially what you need.
Yeah, but that's not without that goes without saying.
And we have 25 million people, and probably less than 1 million are aware of anything going wrong because they're sheep. And and some people, everyone's committed to throwing away their birth certificate and really acknowledging all these languages that are foreign. When, like what was spoken about oral law, and the truth in that is that the jurisdiction is oral. So if we just speak up together in a united voice, we're acting as a sovereignty, a large sovereignty, such as a confederacy or something. And if we're in promise to treaty, then self-determination through international laws will be protected by nations like the United States at the moment, with decent patriotic leadership. When you've got people like Trump who want to get work done against the deep state, and yet the deep state still operates both our governments, New Zealand and Australia, and we fund them. All our taxes, all our revenue, all these fines and COVID rubbish is just funding the deep state. They're even sending Hollywood over here. We've got Tom Hanks, an accused pedophile, wandering around here in Australia making movies. Our Prime Minister has allegedly put 400 million up not long ago for Hollywood to increase its time here. In the United States, they're talking about hanging them. We're encouraging them. We've got new Disney ads on YouTube every day, and they're throwing the normalization of pedophilia and all these things that we are standing here against in support of, like QAnon and all these ideas and all these things that are going on in the world that everyone's supporting. And we're not even paying attention to the fact that they're right here. They're just doing it, and they're increasing their ability to do it. And we have a military police force holding an entire state to ransom while they make a treaty themselves unlawfully with the regional tribal federations that are similar to the OSTF, who are making an illegal contract in the Parliament of Victoria right now. Yeah, and they're talking about sovereign vaccines and giving full sovereignty to a pharmaceutical company who has bought out the sovereignty of with China's help in Victoria.
Yeah. So look, what I'm looking at here, Dylan, is it doesn't matter how many people there are in the country, because I'm telling you, when I go around where I live, I'm on my own. Right? There's nobody that I can talk to about this stuff without I'm thinking I'm some kind of got something wrong with my brain. So, but what we're looking at is when you talk about treating, we treaty with the people that will treaty. We hold our common law courts in our own style, and some people can bring their Christian law in if they want, and we can still certify that, because nobody's got the right to impose their way of having law on other people. But we're looking to join together as community, as a group of people. So if we end up where there's only 10,000 of us, that's 10,000 of us.
I totally agree, mate. And look, honestly, all I'm putting forward is this idea that we go to those original sovereigns and ask for that responsibility to make that foundation. And they have already given me the support I need to keep going. I don't bend on this. You will notice with me, I'm very firm on this point of view, and it doesn't change. and it's there for everybody. And that's the other thing. It's designed not for me to control or run. It's for everybody to stand up and have their say and be a part of that situation. Bring all the leadership we can find to the party. It's just the truth. I just know it to be truth. I've seen it in action. I've used it for 4 years. I'm free as a bird. You know, I deny all their jurisdiction. I refuse their money. They just give me money now. I told the dole I don't want it, and they just keep giving it to me. So I said, well, you know, stuff you, if you're going to give it to me, I give it away, most of it. So look, it's a way out, and it's there, and I offer it only, you know, it's up to you. No one has to agree to what I put forward, but it's there for you to have a look at. It's called peoplestreaty.online, and it's moving forward constantly. It can't go backwards. It's not asking questions. It's making statements, and it's creating orders. And if those numbers can be raised, and we put in place orders that can annex this system, then that line of authority, those police, our military, are acting under our patriotic leadership.
Okay, have you put a link in the chat to the website?
I put a couple of them in there before.
Okay, awesome.
But I can put another one in if you like. It's just...
Mate, I don't follow the chat because I have enough trouble keeping up with the conversation. So, let alone reading as well. So...
Yeah, the idea is just for people to come and have their say and add their piece. And if you want to make an order, it's anonymous, it's free, and everybody's welcome. And there's no consequence. You can't get in trouble for this. It's not against any law on the planet. So...
Okay. No, well, we're getting in trouble for things that aren't against any law on the planet, but there are apparently acts and statutes come into play if, well, they believe in them. Anyway, I just want to ask Crown, did you want to say something to Dylan? Participate there?
He is correct. Everyone that is not original to that country have no jurisdiction. They have to go back to the originals to get jurisdiction. Now, it's how the government is getting consent and jurisdiction is the problem from the originals.
Yeah, right.
That's the problem. And they're doing it through the land councils is one major problem. They're actually implementing it from New Zealand because the land councils and local government are all blueprinted from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
And the term Māori in the 1940 Māori Purposes Act, when they set up the United Nations, and they labelled all the denominations representing Aboriginals, Native, all those connotations in relation to the nativity of the birth of a person, even the word nation, is a corporate fiction. So all these words that we're using are all being summarised in one word, Māori.
Right.
Just by the appearance of anyone presenting themselves as a Māori is consent.
Mm-hmm.
They use that one word as a portal to get consent, no matter where that word is being used. And you'll see that in legislation. The other word that they're using, which represents the Holy See, is New Zealand. And all land, no matter where it is worldwide, or any district, territory, or colony, is summarized in New Zealand. Two words they're using to control the land and the people. And I can show you where they've gazetted all this stuff in New Zealand papers past. This is what they're using, two words.
Mm. And because the Treaty of Waitangi didn't have the support of all of the sovereign nations, it basically the same situation. Was it oral traditional law before the British showed up on that islands?
Well, you know, the Aborigines or the original people didn't have ABCs.
They just had different language.
Straight away, you're contracted into the jurisdiction just through the word. That's why they sent the missionaries in with the Bible, with all the abstract nouns and the English language.
If we speak in unification and acknowledgement of the original jurisdiction, we don't come under the language jurisdiction of the British realm. Well,
my point of view is everything is Crown copyrighted, even the language. So I'm going over above all of that. no
Well, that's
matter
what
what language it is.
denying the language copyright as unlawful, and just denying the language copyright, and it's got no effect. It's just a spell. It's magic. You know, we say it with intent. Intent is law, as far as I've been taught in knowledge. Intent is law, L-O-R-E. You speak it, you speak truth, then you suffer the consequences if you don't.
Well, we are speaking the law, and it's written in the Bible. Your word is your bond. The law is letters and words.
Mm-hmm. And the law and
Just,
the Bible.
just like to ask, if I may ask, just while you're both on the line, I noticed that the Crown talks about crown. Dylan, you're talking about sovereign. Sovereign's already been mentioned as being your dead part of your birth. Are you sort of aware of that, or are you comprehending where crown's coming from by using the word crown rather than sovereign?
I get the point. All right, I do. I get what the point is by taking on this language idea, and even with syntax, I get that as well. But grammar is a control mechanism, no matter how you put it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, yeah. Well, someone just said it there. The dreaming is older than Abrahamic beliefs, and the dreaming laws are oral, and oral traditional law. We have the ability, with that lack of foundation here on the continent and in New Zealand, to create something from the bottom up with whatever intent in the language we choose. If the right intent is in what we create a system that basically dissolves itself over time, with a foundation that can't be manipulated, because that's the choice that free men would make for one another, is to not be manipulated. So essentially, personally, I find that the biggest thing I've had to challenge is, you know, letting go of the outcome for myself, and not being so concerned if I get to see these changes in my life, but be more concerned about making sure the foundations of those changes exist. So
one of the things we've got to
so in the future, my children's children and their children can actually, you know, have the rewards from that. You know, there's a selfishness I find throughout the world through this whole awakening, that, you know, that we've got to control the outcome to be in favor of us and what we want right now. And I just feel that's the wrong way to take it. I think we should be reaching far further ahead than ourselves at this point in time, and considering that we are, if we go backwards to a foundation that's unlawful, it gives strength to a system that's unlawful, and it'll never have to back down. It's not obligated to back down from you if you keep going, giving British constitutional legislation or legalese any foundation.
The main thing we've got to do, Dylan, we got to get out of the bloody thing now. It's all around us.
Well, mate, I'm out of it. I've been out of it for 4 years.
That's fair enough, but it's not it's not what you've just done isn't going to happen broad stream across the whole the rest of the population straight up. We've got to try.
It most certainly could if people wanted it to. There's absolutely nothing to stop it.
Well, even if you could put it down that they won't. But what Andy was trying to say to you, I think, in a way, is that by and Crown can correct me if I'm wrong, but by using the term sovereign, it's almost like using the word Maori. It's contracting back in, because they've got their definition for sovereign, and sovereign isn't an original word. It's not an origine word. So again, through their trickery with the language, they give you a term to contract back in. Now, when it comes down to it, their rules suck. Like, that's ridiculous. They've got all their rules. There was no disclosure, and it's all garbage. And none of us want to have rules like that.
I totally agree there, Steve. And that's why I'm saying if we acknowledge the fact that the true jurisdiction was oral, and everything they've written down about the word sovereignty means fucking nothing. Pardon my language, but it means nothing. So we can override it with our own word.
It does, but if we're going to transfer property between people and things like that, there needs to be more than an oral record of it.
The thing is, it would take several years to treaty on this continent with the level of inherent prejudice that exists in this circumstance. So the first thing we would have to do is promise to treaty, because that's the right to self-determination, no matter how long it takes, in an agreement to annex this system under strict rules. You have to annex this system, and the only way to do that is to make a silent stand or a violent stand. And you won't do it any other way.
Yeah, we do have to make a stand.
Yeah, the court, but you can make a silent stand with a people's treaty, because who do they target? If people are anonymously having their say in collecting and sharing, collecting the will of people, who are they under what? Who do they target? I've written it. It's written down for everyone to share that if anyone is bullied on anything I put forward, then I take full responsibility, and I challenge their highest courts to bring me in right now. Any court, any time. I'll gladly talk about the sovereignty of their court and deny it everything. They won't have me in a courtroom.
No, but the courts are one thing, but then they're making rules where they can just come and knock your door down and take away people they see fit, which is just ridiculous, but that's what they're doing. So that's part of what we've got to
They
do.
don't do it, though, Stephen. They do that to those who uphold their foundations of jurisdiction. I don't uphold that. They don't do that.
Well, no, I have to disagree with you. They don't. They do that to who they want to do it to, and it can be random. And one of the reasons they do it is to instill terror in the population, so that when I saw them take away that bloke, it was in Sydney, he was pushing a pram, he had 2 kids in it, and they took him away. That was just, and they had 25, I think I counted, 25 police for one man who wasn't protesting or anything. He just happened to be there with a pram. And as far as I could see, that was like a psyop just to scare the hell out of people. And that's the sort of stuff.
That's what they're doing. They're putting pressure on people they know they can bully. All right. And they're not putting pressure on those that they can't. But they're trying to scare people from doing what we need to do, which is unite and be completely certain on a single outcome that's non-negotiable.
Yeah, so that's all I'm just saying is you can adopt a position like you have, but it's not necessarily going to protect from random acts that they take out, and we've got to stop that as well. So anyway,
I'll share the webpage link here in a second. I have to go out of this page to do it, so I don't know if it'll disappear on me because I grabbed something else before. Yeah. Can you still hear me if I'm talking now?
Yes. Yes.
All right, wonderful. Look, I appreciate you all listening, and I love that you're all standing up. It's fantastic.
And it's great that you've come in. It's great that you're here, mate, talking with us, because we've all got to be more aware of. But we're actually more the same than different, and that's what it all boils down to. We're more the same than different. So that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm sticking with.
Yes. Well, I've been pretty full on at it lately, trying to get some attention of some people. I've challenged Rick Bosey and Rod Cullerton both to a live discussion about jurisdiction, because I think they've both got nefarious ideas up their sleeve.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get in the way of people uniting on things. I'm just trying to help people comprehend that, eventually they will see that the wall is so much greater in front of them than they've ever given credit to. And they don't have any obligation in that system to follow any rules or legislation that you might be able to confront them on. They can make it disappear a lot easier than they can make the truth disappear. And there's 230 years of evidence of that. So,
yeah.
And quite a bit in New Zealand as well. But they had a bit of a hard fight in New Zealand. There's some big boys that were, didn't go down real easy from those single shot muskets.
No.
I'm sure they had a bit of trouble at night in those camps.
Yeah, they did. So I think the other thing too we're all getting together is that people are getting modified with their knowledge and with their viewpoints just from being exposed to each other, and that's important as well. And that's what again reminds us we're more the same than different. So thanks very much for participating with us tonight, Dylan.
No problem. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry to anyone who's ever seen me getting a bit upset about all this throughout time. It's I've really had to, level myself out about it, because letting go of that outcome, like I say, even I've let go of this outcome. I can't force anyone to be a part of anything. I'm just putting it there for you to see, and it's an option, and as long as it stands uncontested, it's a real option. So,
yep.
I hope to see you all involved, and thanks everybody.
Okay, thanks, Dylan.
All right, Steve. Cheers. Thanks, Andy. Brown, nice to meet you.
All right, mate.
Good luck, brother.